Hello everyone, Zeldarinth here, and for today's video on Umamusume, as I will be quite busy next week, potentially because of my new job, I thought now would just be a great time to make a video to showcase my Libra aces, as the Champions Meetings pre-registration will be coming out here in the next couple days, and I've basically finished up in this last week because I really wanted to get ahead on building my Scorpio ace, because I may be potentially really busy and not able to spam runs as much as I am now. And so I'm not as happy with I would like to be with my aces for Libra, but I think they are quite good enough to have a chance at winning. They will definitely get me to the finals through kind of testing them out in test rooms. Now, I do have multiple aces as well, 4 different Umas, 2 front runners, pace chaser, and then an end closer for this. We may now the 2 front runners are pretty much always going to be in there, and we'll kind of probably test out both my pace chaser and end closer, and see how they perform and which one ultimately I want to take into the finals. But to start it right off, we'll take a look. So we have a Mihono Bourbon and Sane Sky as my front runners. A Camping Taiki Shuttle will be my pace chaser, and then we have an Xmas Ogre end closer. And so the very first one that I was able to finish was the Mihono Bourbon here that I have here. She actually got finished very quickly on her. Came out pretty decent. We were able to max speed. We have enough stamina. Powers where I'm not really happy. We did not get up to that 1200 range. I mean, it is what it is. Ultimately, she's kind of... one of the things I really am not liking about her is the fact she kind of relies a little bit on unrestrained to have the best shot at winning. At least that's when it comes to the try-hard rooms that a lot of my viewers are. Now, in the real CM, she should be able to win some of the weaker Umas that we'll run into there, especially in round 1. But she pretty much has everything we need there. We have Angling and Scheming, Lights of Vaudeville. We have Kiss of Courage to kind of give her a little bit of speed boost at the end. We have our typical things that you want: Escape Artist, Smile Maven, Top Runner, See You Later. Got the Dodging Danger, Ignited Wit combo. Took Slipstream. I don't think I had really anything else to buy. I kind of like Slipstream is okay, but this one's very hard to really pass in the corners, and so Slipstream's not got as much value, but I'm pretty sure I didn't have anything better to get. We have Mile Straightaways for some extra speed potentially on the end, alongside with Lights of Vaudeville, or in the beginning to help her try and get the lead, because it's very important as a front runner to try and get that lead early on. Of course, we have Speed Eater. We have our 3 greens. Fall runner for a little extra speed here. And yeah, ultimately, she is the stronger of my 2 front runners in terms of being in the front. So she's most likely going to be the one to get the most wins through the CM. But it does kind of suck because her acceleration is not quite as good. I mean, anyone that has a very good like pace, late, or end closer that's in the right positioning for all their stuff can outright beat her if they have similar stats. And so it kind of sucks there because she's really relying on that gamble unrestrained, because Angling and Scheming is kind of not enough, at least in the try-hard rooms. I have tested it in some weaker rooms when I wasn't streaming, and she does a lot better. I do overall better in the non-streamed rooms, but still, ultimately, not as good as I like there. But we do have the second frontrunner I will be pairing alongside her, a Seiyun Sky. Definitely could have made a better Seiyun Sky. But you know what? I got a decent enough one on runs. I glued, I think, over 40, actually 40 on stream. I glued 40, I think, of her on stream, probably another 50-ish off stream. So we're probably around 100 runs to get this one. And I was just like, you know what? I need to move on to working on the Scorpio Cup, because I don't know how busy I may be when it comes to being able to spam runs. Luckily, I'm only building 1 ace for Scorpio Cup. Everybody knows Christmas Ogre Cap, slot fest again in Scorpio Cup. But with her, we did get max speed. Definitely the hardest thing to get on Seiyun Sky, even with 3. And I forgot to show it on Mihono Bourbon on the deck here. But the deck I went with is the 3 speed Tyke Shuttle with Silent Suzuka for Unrestrained, Summer Maru Zensky. And we, of course, have 5 motion. She's just for skill points on Mr. CB, and of course, Light Hello. Now, you might say, well, where's Professor of Curvature? It's not as necessary on this track because it's so hard to pass in the corners. And there's so many other things that you can take to help out. Like, I'd prefer to have, like, the straightaway skills for helping win outright in the end, having extra speed, like Lights Vaudeville, that. Have Kiss for Courage for being kind of a little bit of an extra push forward. So we do not have... Professor of Curvature in there. It's one of the things you might see a lot of people who decided to forego Kitasan to try and get that higher roll on the stats, plus other skills that can kind of replace it on this one. But then we have the Seiyun Sky, so she doesn't have the same thing as Mihono Bourbon problem where she can't use the Mihono Bourbon wit card, so I had to bring her. Ultimately, what's one of the things that makes anybody besides Mihono Bourbon hard to build is having to bring this garbage card. But this one, a similar situation. We didn't bring Kitasan. We went with the Borrow and Taiki Shuttle. Agnes Takan, very important. I know that she does not have she doesn't have a gold that's useful, or really any skills in her that's useful for Saiyan Sky, like you can get with Kitasan Black. But the skill point that she gives, the skill points she gives is very important. I mean, we're gonna lose a couple skills just outright by not having her, just to try and get Professor of Curvature in, and so ultimately not worth it. In my perspective, Professor of Curvature is just not as useful as some of these others, like the early ones, like Mile Maven, and then Leader's Pride, or whatever it's called, the gold version of Leader's Pride. And so we forego that, and ultimately, we got the 1600. Power here is plenty because we do have firm conditions to get a little bit of that extra power boost. Half ball runner for some extra speed. Wit's pretty good. Stamina's good. And yeah, with the double fall runner, even faster. If we're on the outer post, even faster there. Front runner savvy, of course, because I'm not going to rely on outer post as my green. Have front runner straightaways. We've got Speed Eater being very good on both of my front runners, being basically like its own little mini Dominator, but from the front, to help my Pace Chaser and Closer maybe move up. Of course, the biggest thing and the biggest problem I have with her, she's great in like all ways outside of Taiki Shuttle. The main card you borrowed decided not to finish her chain or really give me any of her skills in her kit. Definitely not as good as I'd like because of that. And she definitely struggles at getting into first place because of how strong my Mihono Bourbon is. Although it's kind of a give or take, like either or, because Mihono Bourbon, of course, doesn't have taking the lead because she can't use the card for it. So she does quite well. Now, she generally is able to win if she is the one in the front. There is always the idea that I could only run Seiyun Sky, and then I bring my other two Umas, my Pace Chaser and End Closer, to ultimately win if there's no other front runners. We may end up testing that just because of how much stronger she is at finishing the race in the lead versus getting herself into the lead versus my Mihono Bourbon. But not having Mile Maven really hurts. So it sucks, but she does get herself in the lead often enough that I think she is plenty good. And you need two if you really want to make sure you can push each other up. Especially if you have the big hard counter to front runners, which is Silent Suzuka, which I've seen plenty of people, at least in the tryhard rooms, running her, that it might be a threat here and there. But if they're not a very strong Silent Suzuka, they have really no problems passing. I mean, just the corner is brutal to get past on there. When it comes to my Pace Chaser, we have Taiki Shuttle camping here. Dude, I mean, whenever I talk about Umas and their stat bonuses, Taiki Shuttle is a perfect example of why I'm always talking about how great power bonus is. Man, she is so nice to run. 30% power bonus just makes it so easy to get your speed and your power. Ultimately, I probably could have gotten an even better one than this one, stat-wise, because Wit's a little lower than I'd like here, as well as Stamina. But we do have Corner Recovery on her to kind of deal with that. Definitely could get a better one, but we'll just let her ride. She's won enough on her own right. I haven't seen really any big issues. The only biggest threat would be somebody that goes heavy debuffer, which there's been plenty of. I have seen in the tryhard rooms people going all in on like Christmas Ogre Cap or like a Vodka Late Surger and then bringing two Dominator Keen Eyes. Pretty much has everything skill-wise that she wants. She has her neck and neck, has Unstoppable, See You Later, Mile Maven, Speed Star, which is pretty good on this one, Professor of Curvature. Like, that's one of the reasons I really don't want to run her again, was trying to get all these support cards to finish their chains. It's a pain in the ass. And yeah, here's her deck. Of course, we went for that one to get the Descent, which we got straight Descent. Determined Descent not worth the extra cost, because it's only 1 plus 1.1 Excel. So we're only bringing her, actually, for the white itself. We did get the corner skills, mile corners, pace corners. One of the things, it's a lot easier to get pace chaser corners and mile corner. Well, I think she has mile corners built in than say with your end closers. So she came out really good on the skill side, stat side. Does all right. If she's in the right room for her comp, she does great. If she's not in a room that's really good for her comp, she doesn't do great. But she's my pace. And then when it comes to my end closer ogre caps, I've built a couple of them. I gotta find them in. They're kind of buried. Okay, the main two though, the ones I will go with, are these two right here. So the first one here, this one is in my opinion, the weaker potentially of the two, because struggling to get that max speed. Of course, I mean it's because of Daichi Ruby. With enough runs, I could do it. I've had max speed, really high power with Christmas Ogre, and high wit. The problem on the runs with those skills. So why I've struggled with Christmas Ogre Cap is not actually getting max speed. I've gotten max speed plenty of times. It's the skill side of things. This one has, of course, we have the 3 skills here. I've run out of, like, the problem is I've just run out of things to buy. And so, like, I shake it out. This one we have actually a lot of useful skills in here. We have Pumped, Daring Strike. We have, of course, they have See You Later, Nothing Ventured, Lightning Surge, our main big acceleration. Pumped has potential speed carryover, I believe. But it also could potentially do nothing. It's just, I just don't have any, I didn't have anywhere else to put points in there. So I took it. We have Nimble Nav, potentially. We have Mile Corners. So this one seems to be the best at being able to push up, but not as strong on the speed side. This is the next one I built right after it. And so, I mean, this one has a lot of the same problems with skills. As you can see, I bought corner acceleration here. Did get a little bit higher in the speed side because I was able to buy one of the greens. Ultimately, if I wanted to build the strongest Christmas Ogre possible, I would have both right-handed Fall Runner. Of course, I would have... This one I was able to get mile corners and end closer corners with Professor of Curvature, like as much as I can possibly get to push up. But another failure. Mr. CB did not finish this one. I just cannot. Christmas Ogre Cap is a pain in the ass. End closers in general are just a pain right now to get all the skills you want. We have Lights of Vaudeville, Behold the Empire's Divine Might for some speed here. Straightaway Adepts. I mean, she pops a lot of skills at the end for some extra speed, and she can't outright win on this one. This one in test rooms has performed the best. But it is also very gamble because we don't have as strong of a want. The Christmas Ogre Caps have been just brutal to run. And so basically that's what I'm working with. I'm not going to try and build a better one. Probably going to just end up in the finals. It'll probably just be Taiki Shuttle. Taiki Shuttle's a little bit more consistent in my opinion. Just outright better stats. Has all the skills. And she does... I feel like she'll do quite well in the CM rooms versus the try-hard ones. And, I mean, I showed the deck here. I mean, it's your typical deck. Ida-san with Agnes Tachyon. This one, like, Professor of Curvature was important because of how hard it is to get goddamn skills on end closers. Try and get that with Daring Strike, which we were unlucky and not able to get. Lightning Surge. And then, yeah, that's the deck there. And that is the aces. Yeah, it took about, I'd say maybe 200 plus runs just to get those. If I had more time, I'd keep running them, but I fully expect to be busy next week, and so I decided to move on and start working on my Scorpio ace. That way I can be really ahead of the game on Scorpio, so while I'm really busy learning my new job, I can eventually hopefully get to the point where after Scorpio's done, have a little bit more time in my hands. To focus on spamming ace runs again. But who knows? Who knows how that'll work out. But that is what I have for the Libra Cup. We'll see how they work out. I do plenty fine, I feel like, in the practice rooms. Not nearly as good as the last dirt one. I mean, of course, the last dirt one I had a monstrous ace. But I feel they'll do fine enough. They'll do fine enough. Like, after seeing how terrible other people's Umas are, because people are struggling in Grand Live, feel like I'll be fine. Like, just don't run into the try hard in the finals, and that'll be it. But that's it for now. And one more thing on Libra Cup, because like I've said with my new job, it is uncertain if I will be available right as the CMs start, which is normally 5 p.m. Central for me. So I will be looking once I kind of get an idea of my schedule next week of actually putting out like an actual schedule. Usually I'm like last second on starting my streams or putting out the setup saying when I'm going to get on. With this new job, I want to kind of actually establish a real schedule so you can know like a day in advance when I plan the stream. I think that'll be a little bit easier for other people to be able to make it to streams or know when I'm going to do my polls or when I'm going to do CM runs. And depending if I do it, if I have to do the runs after the start, I know a lot of people don't want to have to wait to do their finals on stream. I will make a, like I've seen some of the other Umatubers do, is they have like a reaction channel, which I have one currently, that you can post, like just record your run or runs if you want me to watch some of your round 1 or round 2s after you've already done them, and we can go in there and watch them and see how they went that way if you don't want to wait to do them live. Or of course you can still showcase it live streaming it even after you've run it. You just got to avoid spoiling it if because a lot of people sometimes you'll see the title already and know that they've already won. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. That's my team for Libra Cup. And if you like my content, if you can like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.